Ever wonder what it would be like to just put a backpack on and go to like a third world country? Just go traveling around everywhere. You hear so many scary stories, and there is some stuff that happens. I mean, you can get ripped off, you can get lost, and there's a lot of things that I think you want to take in consideration, especially when you're a 20-something girl traveling all by yourself on other parts of the planet. This is a story of my sister, Katy Bab, taking off and on her adventures and the hacks that she has to save you from getting ripped off, getting hotels, cabs, and things to know when you're just traveling out and abroad. Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Katy Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show's about, it is dedicated to creating a lifestyle design that improves quality of life for people and planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. All right, guys, today's a very special one. I have my sister visiting me, Katy Bab from Washington. She's been all over the place. She's got all kinds of stories to say. If you're wondering what it's like and you want to know some hacks of and how to travel safely and some of the scary things, I think there's a lot of stories out there where people make it out to where it's this bad, horrific thing. And she tells in her stories today, there was a couple things that were pretty damn scary, but there was also some beautiful things. So it's like anywhere in the world, there's always bad stuff that could happen. There's always good stuff. So take in consideration if you're thinking about traveling around or just curious about what it's like. This is a 20-something-year-old girl traveling around. So here's her story. Hope you guys enjoy. And I do ask you guys, if you like this sort of thing, consider subscribing and hit the like button only if you do like it. So without further ado, this is part 2 with my sister Katy Babs on traveling around as a 20-year-old something. What did you ever plan on when you came back from your trips? Did you have money planned to for as far as working capital, to get your gas money and all that to go find a job and all that? But you said you got ripped off, so you came back and you didn't have shit.
Yeah.
How'd you get through that?
Screwed. I lucked out in having my boyfriend living with me at the time for one. He was able to kind of cover a little bit of stuff for me, and I lucked out getting my job back right away. But yeah, it was pretty rough. I got behind, I think, on my credit cards. Yeah. When I got back, I got some fees from that. But the way I looked at it was, let's say I got $200 in fees or overdraft, whatever, when I got back. Yes, it was stressful to get back on my feet, but I would pay that 20-fold for the experience. Oh yeah. I mean, it's what's the word? You can't pay for
the wealth. Yeah, the worth of it is. Yeah, you can't put a price tag on it.
Yeah, you can't put a price tag on it. It's just one of the most amazing, and I think back on it all the time. And I now am looking into actually doing humanitarian work for a living. I actually meaning to bring that up to you too, is that I've found some different programs that are similar but more career oriented.
Is this Japan? This is your next adventure, right?
Well, Japan, I want to do woofing again. Yeah. I've seen some other programs, there's Workaway is one that Mom told me about. That's cool, but that one's more working in hostels and kind of just travelers, working with travelers. And some of them you get paid, which is cool, but you're often working in a bar or a restaurant. You're working somewhere where there's lots of travelers. Yeah. And it's more, I guess, a hip kind of, not to judge it at all, but it's more of just, I want to go to this place and check it out.
A hipster
and
environment.
kind of party, probably more young people, college student oriented. Whereas, and not always, I mean, it's a very broad spectrum. I haven't looked in every country. But woofing is a lot more about humanitarian and farm related nature. Poor people, kind of a driven thing. A lot of the Workaway stuff is more tourism related, because it's you speak English and you're a traveler and people want to talk to you, and some of the hostel jobs, they're you work not that many hours, but we also want you to just kind of hang out and be there for events and be a quintessential traveling young person, and to talk to people, but kind of like this, discuss with people how things are and how your travels have been. One big thing I liked when I traveled to Belize and Guatemala, when I came home, actually, I think I did it on the plane ride home, because I had time, I wrote out all the things that I should have brought, that I wish I had, and then I also wrote down things that I brought that I didn't need.
Or how you can make things even better.
Just in general, all that, you should have brought this, down to, these kind of socks, or whatever, to this type of backpack, or you didn't bring a first aid kit, you should have brought, I wish I had a compass. when I was
so
there.
what are some of the things? Compass?
Compass seems stupid. It seems like, oh, I want to be Indiana Jones. I want to be in the jungle, and I can't find north. No, but I was like in Guatemala, in one of the small towns. It was on a mountain side, and it was all these angled, weird streets. And then I had a map even, but the map isn't that good. It's not like Google Maps, you know. And it's like I got confused as to like, wait, so this street is over here? No, wait, it's over there.
Yeah.
And like I'm a very north, south, east, west person anyway, so I'm like, okay, the place I'm staying is north of that big giant oak tree. Cool. And then I'm south of the restaurant that has all the seafood or whatever. You know what I mean? Like I figure out the big pink building over there. I'm across from that. But if I can associate west, you know, and obviously the sun setting and rising is an easy way to tell. But there were times where I kind of was lost of like, where exactly am I? And I thought about it. If I just could know where north is right now, that would help a lot to know where I got to navigate myself to. Another one was I found that laundry, if you're traveling, especially if you're staying in hostels or you're sleeping on the bus or whatever, you're not in a place that you can wash clothes. Like the place I lived, you had to hand wash everything.
Yeah.
So for one, you're going to either have to hand wash stuff or go pay for a laundry facility. And most laundry facilities in other countries charge by weight.
Yeah.
So jeans are terrible for that.
Yeah.
Not only do they take up a lot of room in your bag, but they weigh a lot. So you washing them, not only storing them in your bag, but washing them or any kind of big, thick materials. You know, it's like obviously you want to maybe have a good like jacket for rain and stuff. But there's companies like North Face is one that's popular in Washington that does those jackets that are those goose down ones, and they literally can compact into like a little ball.
Yeah.
But they're super warm, but they're also really lightweight. So if you got to wash it or you got to shove it in a bag, things like yoga kind of pants, stuff like that. If I travel again, like going to Japan, I'm going to wear mostly stretchy, lightweight, probably workout clothes because it's easier to wash. It takes up less room in the bag. They charge less than if you're hand washing it and hanging it up. Like in Guatemala, there's lots of rain. Yeah. So I'd have a pair of jeans and it's not sunny all day. Yeah. My jeans just won't dry, and then it starts raining, and then my jeans smell moldy because I got to bring them in, and it was like, oh, this is something I didn't think about, you know? So lightweight, easy, dry clothes. They also make those towels, which I've never used, but I saw other volunteers have them. They're like microfiber, kind of. Oh, yeah? Which I hate. I hate trying to dry my hands or dry things with microfiber because it like doesn't stick. Yeah. But they're a different kind where they're more absorbent. Yeah. And they have them where they have a set, or you just get one, but it's like a big beach towel size, a little bit smaller, and then there's like a hand towel. But there's, because of the microfiber style, they're real thin, so again, they compact really easy, and then they dry really fast. Huh. So a lot of people would have those because a lot of places you go, they don't have any towels. Yeah. So, and also again, towels are big, bulky to carry, slow to dry. So these ones literally would dry super fast. So that was something I wish I'd invested in.
What about like women products? That'd be weird in a third world country.
That's
Did
something
you pack extra stuff?
I found they had stuff. I mean, obviously they're not the best quality, but I mean, no worse than, or any female would understand this, that when you go to a store and just buy the cheapest brand, you know, expect going to like the 99-cent store and getting tampons there. Yeah. That's the worst you're gonna see in somewhere like Guatemala or something. They're not like, here's this rag, you know, shove it up there. It's like they have the stuff. It's just very cheap quality, and there's going to be one brand. There's not going to be options, so it's like, probably better.
What you get is what you get.
Bring what you can,
How about water and like like if you have to brush your teeth and all? I know those places are really dangerous. Like
so water, like the place I volunteered at, they bought special like purified water for us that we would drink, and then it was weird because they'd have the kids
just for you guys,
just for the people that weren't local.
Because they were acclimated to it.
Yeah, because of the bacterias in the water, people would get sick. So then it was weird though because they had the waters aren't that great, but they're used to it. They all drink it. It's not that bad for them as it would be for us, but it's still not the best water. But then they had all these kids there, and the kids are drinking the regular water, and we got our special little purified. And I wanted to be like, no, children here, have all the water. First. I just won't drink any water. But actually, when I was out and about, generally I wouldn't get anything with water or with ice. Yeah. Too, because ice is still the same water. So I would drink, the bottled Coca-Cola is huge in Guatemala.
Is it?
So that was pretty easy. to get, but just they had glass bottle sodas at most places, and then beers. So I actually drank a lot of beer, but cheap beer.
Yeah.
Like El Gallo was the one in Guatemala, but it's like the equivalent of Bud Light or whatever. So it was often the same price as like a soda or a tea or whatever. But even drinking tea, I love tea, but tea's made with the water. Yeah, it's boiled, but who knows? You know what I mean? It's risky. Another thing I did to battle that is I got probiotic supplements before I left, and I would take one of those a day, and just to help battle any bacteria. Because I ate all the street food.
Yeah.
I got bit by mosquitoes. Like, one thing is there's malaria potentially out there. Depending where you go, some places require you to get shots.
Oh, yeah.
Luckily they didn't there, but there were other volunteers that I worked with that all were taking malaria pills, and it made them nauseous all the time, and it made them get sunburned easier.
Really?
Yeah.
What a trip.
So we're all hanging out. They wouldn't eat the street food. I'm eating the street food, and they're all sick and getting sunburned, and I was fine. I had one day that I felt sick, but I felt like it was food poisoning, as in I had bad cheese, because I got this dinner plate in between buses somewhere real quick, and it was near the bus stop. You know, not the best area, but there's this little food court. And I got this little plate with tortillas and rice and beans and plantain, and then they had this little chunk of little crumbly cheese, little like queso fresco kind of stuff. And I took one bite of the cheese, a big bite, because I was super hungry, and it instantly was like, oh, this is bad. Like, it tasted sour, like, bad. And so I already, like, swallowed it. But then I didn't eat any more of the cheese, but I instantly was like, this isn't good. And then I got to my place that night, and I was up all night throwing up. And then the next day, I was throwing up out both ends.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I was fine. I mean, it took me a minute in the morning. It was like being hungover, you know. I needed a couple hours to, like, recoup. But then I was fine after that, and I never the rest of the trip in Belize or Guatemala had any sickness issues, and I took those probiotics every day.
Wow.
So I don't know that they were specifically what did it. Maybe it's also my immune system, but it definitely didn't hurt, and it wasn't that hard to take it every day.
Well, that was your first round, and then you've done some other stuff. You just came from Tennessee, New Orleans, and all that.
New
How
Orleans,
did you make?
Yeah.
And you don't have a place right now, right?
Right.
You don't have an apartment or something. So you were in Washington, I think, right? And then before you just went on a whole nother escapade. Like, how did you make? You have a car, still, right? Like, what are you doing? Like, Impala. From what I heard from Mom, is what?
A 1970 Impala.
Impala, holla for the Impala.
Oh, classic cars. I don't get one.
But you left from there and you got your car stored, and then you're just, from what Mom said, you've been couch surfing and just like saving your money and like
things have kind of
worked
out.
How did you travel again? Like,
a big one for me with that has been knowing people. I looked into Workaway for New Orleans, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because it was New Orleans, it wasn't, I mean, they need different humanitarian kind of work. Everywhere could use humanitarian work. Everywhere has people that need help or animals or whatever. But in New Orleans, I was looking at Workaway, trying to find some programs, and I contacted a few people. One thing, like, out there, it's another thing with Workaway also, like, the hostels, because I had, we have a sister that lives out there. She had some work for me, so that was one thing. I wanted to hang out with my sister, and I was able to get some work, and New Orleans is a place I've always wanted to visit, so it was kind of a win-win-win. And I was able to stay with her some, but not 100% of the time. But with the Workaway, a lot of them, they were turned off by the fact that I had a sister out there and I had some work. They didn't want to pay me to come work. They only wanted me to work if I was going to stay at the hostel. So that was a thing. So if you have a couple things lined up, some of these programs may not just pay you to work. It's not just a normal job. They want you on the premise. They want you staying there. They want that exchange. Part of it is, like, one of them explained to me, I went actually physically in and had an interview and everything with one of the managers, and his big thing was that they have so many people willing to, that want a place to stay and volunteer exchange. They don't need to pay anybody. It's like they have so many people in and out wanting to do this.
It's the money thing that's right.
That it's like they'd rather not, especially if you're a foreigner. There's the whole like work visa thing, and it's like can be a big deal. So I looked into that, but didn't have much luck. People contacted me back and everything, but things just weren't matching up. But I went and stayed with our sister, and then I actually lucked out one of her friends, who is a professor. She was going out of town for a month, or actually 2 months, to Ireland to go teach Irish literature. She does this every year. So she's a professor during the school year, then in the summer she goes and travels abroad and teaches out there. So she was looking for someone to sublet her place. So I basically went and talked to her, met her and everything, and ended up subletting her place from her while she was in Ireland.
Yeah.
I paid $350 a month.
Oh my God.
And it was right down the street from our sister's place.
Yeah.
So when I worked with my sister, it was a 4-minute walk to her place, so I didn't need to have a car. And then I basically watered the gal's plants and fed her cat. I was going to say the opposite. Watered her cat and fed her plants. And then just maintained her house, took care of her house. And I, of course, cleaned it and everything before she got home. I even put a chocolate on her bed, like a hotel. But yeah, so I was able to score that. And then it was cool because after that, if I wanted to stay longer, one of her friends, who doesn't even know our sister very well, one of the girl who I subletted from's friends, had a place that she was maybe going to look for someone to stay in for like a month while she was in between roommates. Yeah. And so she had the opportunity. So big thing is talking to people and getting to know people and putting your feelers out there, because that's been one of the biggest things for me, is knowing somebody.
And
at least knowing somebody that knows somebody.
Yeah.
Because it's scary sometimes, Craigslist, Facebook, whatever, you can try to find stuff, but it's like that's why the Wolf program's good. You have to pay to be a member, which I didn't mention earlier. But it's like, for Guatemala Belize was $35 a year. The payment really is just to make sure you're not some weirdo that's just trying to freeload, or that the farm isn't trying to just kidnap people as slaves, and you know what I mean? It's just that buffer to be like, no, we're all taking this serious. This is a serious thing, and we're all gonna be professional about it. And so knowing some people helps to be like, okay, this is a friend of that friend, so that means that they're at least more likely reliable than a 100% stranger.
Yeah.
So there was that. So I had the option to maybe stay longer somewhere else, but I didn't, want to do that. But so I subletted a place and then worked with our sister. But I also got some job offers through the places we worked. We were doing pop-up kitchens at a brewery. The owners of the brewery loved me and saw the way I worked, and offered, if I ever came back, they might be able to get me a job as a bartender part-time, or
I hear this a lot with people. You think that you're going to plan something, and it doesn't sometimes necessarily happen that way. It's like when you go to a new place or something, it's like the coincidental things that happen by, like you said, talking to people just opens up avenues everywhere. I think a lot of people would be nervous to travel and like, oh my God, how am I going to this and that?
How am
and
I
I hear a lot from
out?
people is like, when you get there, and I'm not saying I'd love to do just put it all to chance, but it's like a lot of shit always happens when you talk to people.
Well, and
walk your walk and talk your talk.
Yeah.
Do the work.
Well, and it's also like you're saying that you can plan all you want, have a whole itinerary, laminated, and your little marker to check each thing off. It's not always going to go that way. Like me getting ripped off by the cabbie, in Guatemala. And what's funny about that too is because we got ripped off by this guy and we had to wait for another cab, I ended up sharing a cab with this girl from Germany who was working at an orphanage. And she was in college in Germany, majoring in Spanish. And so part of her going over there was like a thing through college to go and speak Spanish and do all this humanitarian kind of stuff. But she was there for 5 months with me. But I met her on the ride, and it was like a 3-hour taxi ride. Yeah. So we got to know each other, and her English was amazing as well. And we're literally friends to this day. Yeah. We went and hung out in Guatemala together. We went on a hike. We stayed at a hotel together. We've kept in touch for years since then. It's been now almost 10 years, and I still keep in touch with her. Wow.
So you got ripped off, and you have a friend for life.
Yeah, and she's like, if you ever come to Germany, come stay with me.
Oh, yeah.
So it's now I have a place in Germany. There was another guy from Spain that me and him, he was making empanadas in the kitchen at the hostel in Guatemala, and it was pouring rain that night. There was no way to go anywhere. So we all hung out in the kitchen and on the roof and played guitar. And I started talking about the empanadas. I was telling him about piroshki and all that, and pierogies, the Russian food, and how it's similar. And then so I helped him make them, and then we fed everybody that we met around there and hung out. And then now I have this friend from Spain, and he's told me the same thing. You come to Spain, you can come visit.
And it just keeps trickling down effect.
Yeah, it goes and goes.
What is the worst thing you think has happened to you on any of your travels, you think? Scariest and worst thing?
I could easily come up with that. In Guatemala, I went to Guatemala. I flew to Guatemala because I found it was cheaper to fly there than Belize because
Yeah.
all the mansions and stuff in Belize, it's more of a tourist destination. So that's a big thing too. If you're going to go to several countries that are close by to each other, like Europe would be a big one, flying into France or something, or Spain is probably a lot more expensive than flying into Portugal.
Yeah.
Or flying, you know what I mean, in a smaller, fly to Czechoslovakia,
Yeah.
and then take the train, the Eurorail to France. You'll probably save hundreds of dollars, you know.
Yeah.
So I found that Guatemala was about half the price of Belize. But anyway, on my travel, so I did a round trip to Guatemala. So I went to Guatemala for a month, went to Belize for a month, then I had to go back to Guatemala to get to my airport to fly back home.
Which is cheaper.
Which is cheaper. But I had to take a bunch of buses to get there. And at one point I got on the wrong, I can't remember if I got on the wrong bus or I think I just didn't get off on the right exit for the bus, which again, other languages and all these cities and towns I've never seen. It's very hard to keep track of. But yeah, basically I didn't get off the right spot. So I'm on this bus and we're going and going and I'm starting to realize, okay, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be going.
Oh, shit.
And it's getting dark and it's pouring rain. And I'm just riding the bus because I'm kind of like, well, maybe I'll just see how far it goes and then I'll figure it out because I'm going to Guatemala City, which is the furthest west, basically, anyway. So I'm like, well, I'll just have it take me as far. Maybe I could just sleep on it, at least take a nap, and I'm freaking out, basically, trying to see what I can do. Then it drops me off this place called Rio Dulce, which is this beautiful, sweet river, is what that translates to. And there were beautiful boats and stuff, so it didn't look like a horrible place, but where the bus actually dropped us off at was not a good part of town. It was about 9 o'clock at night, 9:30 at night, I think. Actually, probably even later. And pouring rain, super dark, and this was the furthest most destination for this bus. It was going to turn around and go back where it came. So I had to get off. Everyone had to get off this bus.
Mm-hmm.
So I get dropped off, and there was like a marketplace, and everything was closing. Everyone was already like packing up. Done, everything's turned off, all the restaurants are closed, everything's closed, no one's around, it's pouring rain. I find the bus stop. Where it dropped me off was like in the middle of the town, and then I found the bus stop way over here for the next day, but it was closed. And not even anywhere for you to like sleep on the bench or anything, just like locked up, closed up. Couldn't tell what time it opened in the morning, but figured it opened in the morning. And I found this hotel and asked this guy for a room, and he was kind of weird and it was just creepy, and then they gave me a room, and it literally was probably actually the size of this room,
about an 8 by 10.
8 by 10, and there was a little bed, crappy little bed on a metal frame, and then there was like a little desk thing and then a crappy chair, and it was cement floors, cement walls, bars on the windows.
Yeah.
The door was like
bars on the windows.
Bars on the windows. Almost
Not
all the windows out there had bars.
sign.
The crack in the door about this big enough for rats and tarantulas and whatever to come in and hear the rain and everything. And it was cold. And I remember I was hungry. I had ramen noodles, which that's a good traveling friend.
Yeah.
And I had dry ramen noodles, and I was pouring the seasoning on like I used to when I was a kid. I used to do this for fun when I was a child, but this time I was like, I have nothing. And I poured the seasoning on the ramen, and I was eating dry ramen sitting on this bed, and I was like, wow, I could die right here, right now, and no one's going to have any idea what happened to me.
Where I am.
Where, like, my family knows I'm in Guatemala.
That's it.
That's pretty much it right now. They don't even know. And even the people I'm volunteering with have no idea. Nobody has any idea where I am. Nobody. And then I heard a knock on my door, like pounding on my door. Some guy yelling something. I couldn't hear. It was raining so hard. So I just didn't answer it. And I heard a lady later on pounding on my door. I didn't answer that. It's going into like 2 in the morning, 2:30 in the morning. People were pounding on my door. I was like, nope.
Oh my God.
And I literally put the chair up under the doorknob and the desk, I think. I put everything against the door, and I laid on the bed and tried to sleep, which I didn't sleep much.
Yeah.
And then the morning came, and I didn't even talk to the hotel guy. I think I just gave him the key. Took off, went straight to the bus stop, and figured out a bus to get my ass home.
Oh my God.
But that was like the worst spot that I had, because I had poor planning. I was tired. I was confused with the bus route. And being alone, too, is something like, if I had it my way, I wouldn't go alone.
Yeah.
I was fine, and I actually ran into a lot of other young, beautiful female girls. that were traveling alone that were like 19 years old. Like in Europe and Australia and other countries, like it's very common to, when you graduate high school, you go travel by yourself. Or I mean, if you have friends, go, but like, or go by yourself. Like, it's a common thing. You just do that. You go and you travel. And a lot of them already speak multiple languages before they even go travel. So they're very fluent in at least French and Spanish and what, you know what I mean? A couple things to get around. And it's like normal, but in the U.S., like I'm in my mid-20s, and people were like, you're going to get kidnapped, you're going to get raped, you're going to get your kidneys taken out, you're going to die, like just the worst, you know, at the least robbed. And people were so nice and good. And like my big thing too was I didn't wear jewelry. I didn't wear, as a female, I didn't wear makeup, I didn't wear low-cut shirts or little shorts or skirts or anything. I wore old flannel and a t-shirt, old jeans, whatever. Yoga pants, I guess, can be a little distracting, but just nothing special. Backpack, old backpack, no bright pink backpack or
no Hello Kitty.
You know what I mean? Stuff like that just makes you stand out. And a little red balloon hanging up with an arrow pointing at my head. Kidnap me.
Wow. But
that kind of stuff helped, but also, I mean, if I could, I would love to have somebody with me, because it's just that much safer, even if it's two girls. Yeah. If it's, anybody, just another person, another set of eyes, and then you deter a single robber or whatever to not mess with you as much because he was somebody,
But you sounds like all the shit that people said it kind of wasn't.
That literally was the worst situation I had. For the most part, people that I could tell were poor. They're in these poor parts of town. Their clothes aren't great. Whatever. I see where they're working. They were some of the nicest, sweetest people. And some people would be like, well, you're a female, so they're not. And I'm like, I honestly don't feel... Because, I mean, I also was with other volunteers, too, that were male at times. There were some males that I was with, and they were nice to all of us. Or they messed around. Like there was one lady I remember in Belize. We were staying on one of the keys for the weekend, and she was this lady with this little cart and of like pastries that she had. And one of the guys, she was like, I don't like him. She's like, no, I don't like him. He's mean. Because he said some joke. He tried to be funny, and she didn't like it. But she was kind of joking about it. She wasn't really. And she's like, oh, there's that mean boy I don't like. Yeah. And he'd be like, what? And we were all laughing. We're like, haha, she's not giving you pastries. And it was like this joke, though, kind of going around with us. But it's like people were very playful, very fun, very nice, and like, but also very honest and straightforward. And I did find some people trying to rip you off for some things, street vendors and stuff like that. You got to kind of learn how to haggle with people, because if you come off as a tourist at all, they're going to up the price another $10 or whatever if they can. Yeah. Which at the same time, in my head, if you can afford it, give them the extra $10.
Yeah, they need it.
They need it. Yeah, it's like, like I get it, certain things. Like for me, I was on a budget. Like one good idea I had was like on the chicken buses in Guatemala was you'd get on the bus. Everyone just piles on the bus, and the bus starts driving. And then after it's driving, there's a guy that comes around and collects all the money. So you're already on the bus. So I don't know what they do. I never saw anyone not have money, because I'm assuming it's not very good if you don't have money on the bus. But the first time I went on the bus, the guy came around, and he's just yelling all this different stuff, and see people exchanging money, but it was very unclear what exactly was happening. So he came up to me, and I asked him how much it was. And then he told me, 30 quetzales, 30 quetzales. And so I gave that to him. And then, like, I saw other people's change, and I was like, wait, they're not giving him. I think that's less than 30. Like, I don't know. So the next time I went on a bus, instead, I asked the guy sitting next to me, hey, how much is this bus? Yeah. And he said 15 quetzales. And I said, okay, cool. So when the guy came around to collect money, I just held out exact change, 15 quetzales. Yeah. And he grabbed it from my hand, and we were done.
Smart.
He didn't ask. I didn't ask. No one said nothing. I just acted like I already knew. Yeah. And I did, because I asked somebody else. So literally asking someone in line for the bus or on the bus, nicely, hey, excuse me, could you please tell me?
That's a really good tip.
And that was, that one worked a lot. That one worked really good. Or even just chatting with local people. I'd be like, hey, where's a good place to get some food? Or, ask them their opinion. Where's one of the guys, they were trying to go from Belize to Honduras, and they couldn't figure out this bus thing. They were looking online, and they were looking at these maps and all this stuff, and I literally saw a guy hanging out by the dock. And I was like, hey man, you work on one of the boats here or what? You know, and he's like, oh yeah, I work on this fishing boat. It's like, that's cool. And I was like, well, do you happen to know when the boat to Honduras comes through? Because there's a boat that I knew this much, that the boat comes in, I think twice a day to this dock.
Yeah.
It picks people up. I said, you know when they do that? And he said, oh yeah. You know, 8 in the morning and then 11 in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Every day, but they don't do it on Sunday, you know? And
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool. So I go and tell the guys, they're like, well, what if he's wrong? I'm like, okay, well, you have no idea at this point.
Yeah.
And then I asked him too, well, can they buy the tickets at the boat? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, because my friends are trying to go and they don't know where to go to buy the ticket. There's nowhere to go. And he's like, oh yeah, no, you just buy it when you go on the boat.
Yeah.
And if they don't have
Simple.
room, they don't let you on.
So it was a lot easier to talk to people than use
Yeah.
the internet.
So then I told them, hey, this is
Yeah.
what you do. And they did it and it worked. They got there 8 in the
Yeah.
morning and they just brought however much money they had, you know, in case whatever price. And then they got on the boat.
We need to do another recording if you want to. But what
Yeah.
what is the what's the best thing, the most beautiful, awesome thing you could think on your trip? I'm sure there's a bunch, but what is one that stands out where you're like, oh my God, this was really bitchin'?
Can I say 2?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1 was sitting on top of the tallest ruin at the Tikal ruins in Guatemala. And they have, if you're familiar with the Mayan ruins, they have those very narrow, tall steps that are pretty scary to crawl
Yeah.
up. And some of the ruins are huge. So I forget what the name, they all had their names, but the tallest one there climbed up it, and the other guy I was volunteering with didn't want to go up all the way. So I climbed all the way by myself, and there's nobody else up there at that
Really? He was
moment.
just scared? Like, oh my God,
Yeah,
this
he
is
didn't
crazy.
want to go because there's a part where it's like a path around it,
Yeah.
and then there's like, but then there's this part, and you're allowed to climb on it. Some of them you're not allowed to. This one you're allowed to, but he just didn't want to go. No one else was up there at the moment. I climbed up it, and I just sat there and I looked out, and it's amazing up there because you see just it's a rainforest and it's thick, so you see literally like a sea of trees. You just see the
Yeah.
tops of the trees. Just a horizon of trees, just a green ocean, if you will. And then you'd see the tops of the other ruins, which to me look like little islands,
Yeah.
basically here and there scattered. And just sitting up there, the energy of the ruins, the nature around, hearing the monkeys and the birds and the trees, being there by myself. And actually what was awesome was I thought of the whole family, and I was like, if I could choose one moment in my life to teleport my whole family with me, it'd be right
Yeah.
here on top of this ruin, and all of us just sit here for a minute together and just the elevation, everything. It was just, one of the most amazing experiences ever.
Yeah.
And then the other one was when I went back to Guatemala for my flight. As I mentioned, I went back there to fly home. Because of some of the complications I mentioned, it was raining in Rio Dulce, and it was crazy rain, and I took the wrong bus and all this. Part of why that happened, I forgot to mention, why I took the wrong bus was there was a mudslide. There was crazy weather in Guatemala. There was this huge mudslide, like 40 people died. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
And certain roads were totally covered. So I had to take a different route to get to the airport. So I ended up going back to the place I volunteered at for a couple nights just to help get myself to the airport. But the kids that I worked with didn't know that I was coming back. They thought I was gone forever. And I came back and I showed up in the daytime, and all the kids were there playing after school.
Yeah.
And they'd call me Katy. They couldn't pronounce Katy
Yeah.
quite right, so they'd all call me Katy. So I walk up with all my bags and come around the corner, and all these kids, like 15 or so kids, all playing, doing their thing. They literally stopped, like dropped their soccer balls and their jump ropes.
Oh,
and we're
my
like,
God.
Katy! And they all
Yeah.
ran up and gave me a big old group hug.
Oh.
And we're so excited that I was back. I literally started crying. I was like, oh my God. And that's what I was like, can I just do this forever?
Yeah.
And since then, I've had a desire to do that for a living.
Hell
Do
yeah.
something
Why
like
the
that.
hell
Because
not?
that was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, having all those kids like
Yeah.
legit miss me and just like,
That's just shit, like you said, is priceless. You can't recreate.
Yeah.
You can't buy a moment like that.
Yeah.
It's worth the
That was-
sacrifice. It's worth the risk.
I'll never forget that ever.
Yeah.
That was it.
Well, with that, that's the end of the show. This is my sissy Kiki. Thank you for podcasting, Kiki.
Yes. I love my brother.
You guys need to comment and get her on the show again. We got it. We
Yeah.
got a lot. She's got a lot. So thank you for watching. Thanks for podcasting
Thank
with
you. Happy travels, anyone traveling.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this show. I got definitely some cookies out of this thing, and I think it was wonderful. It was just a pleasure to spend this time podcasting with my little sis, Katy Bab. And if you guys like this sort of thing, consider subscribing, liking, or commenting. It really helps me out. And checking out our other areas of content on Facebook. There's a private group there. You guys asked to join. I approve everybody right off the bat. It's private that way that it keeps any dickheads out of there, that if they cause trouble, we can actually have a peaceful area. There's also the Instagram, everything at Up and In It, where I post every single day, or try to post every single day. Especially these kids, it makes it difficult. But check out stuff there. You're going to find content all over that you won't find in other places. There's also YouTube and, of course, the podcast. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you got some value out of this show. And as I always say, don't lose your muchness. Carry on the fire. Human up. Live it, love it, own it, and bone it.